U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the government has revoked now more than 300 visas and warns the government is looking out for what he called lunatics. This follows the alarming arrest of a Tufts University student, as well as others, who have participated in pro-Palestinian activism on campus. On the left of your screen is Rümeysa Öztürk, a Turkish PhD student at Tufts University, here in this country on a valid visa. As you can see there, circled, she was taken off the streets of Massachusetts by masked plainclothes agents. Rubio suggested, without evidence, that she was involved in destructive student protests against Israel's military operations in Gaza.
If you apply for a visa to enter the United States and be a student, and you tell us that the reason why you're coming to the United States is not just because you want to write op-eds, but because you want to participate in movements that are involved in doing things like vandalizing universities, harassing students, taking over buildings, creating a ruckus, we're not going to give you a visa. If you lie to us and get a visa and then enter the United States and with that visa participate in that sort of activity, we're going to take away your visa.
Öztürk's brother says that last March she co-wrote an op-ed in the school's newspaper, I have it right here, which just criticized the Tufts University's response to the pro-Palestinian movement. This is the op-ed right here. I read it. Basically, she's making an argument here that resolutions passed by the Tufts Community Union Senate should be defended by the leadership of the university. Nothing violent in this piece of paper here. I did notice this line, however. The great author and civil rights champion James Baldwin once wrote, quote, "The paradox of education is precisely this, that as one begins to become conscious, one begins to examine the society in which they're being educated." Öztürk's family believes her detention by ICE is related to this article. She's currently in detention in Louisiana, but has yet to be charged. She's just the latest in a series of high-profile cases involving student activism. The detentions are raising questions, hard ones, about how ICE agents are choosing these students, presuming they're not reading op-eds all day. Joining me now is Gadeir Abbas. He's Deputy Litigation Director from the Council on American Islamic Relations. Good to join me. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So first, let me ask you a question. You have Secretary Rubio there saying that, well, this student and others perhaps supported or maybe participated in protests which might have damaged property. What is the actual basis, as you understand it, for revoking their visas? Is it this op-ed, or do they have evidence of more?
The administration is revoking visas and green card holders. They're denying people entry to the United States that have been here for years just because of the things they said. That's all. That's the whole reason why they're doing it. They're doing it to Tufts students this week. They were doing it to Columbia students last week. And it's going to come to universities and colleges all across the country, each and every city, I think.
Let me ask you a very basic question here. Do green card holders to this country and those who hold valid visas, including student visas, do they enjoy the constitutional protection of freedom of expression contained in the First Amendment?
Yes, every single person inside the United States, regardless of their status, has basically the same exact First Amendment right to speak. And it can't work any other way. Whether you have despicable views, maybe you're a Nazi and you're peddling white supremacist nonsense, or you're a pro-Palestine protester advocating for dignity, for life, for the folks in Gaza, you have the same right of free speech. And Marco Rubio and his colleagues are abandoning that.
The baseline by which Öztürk was detained, as I understand it, is through the Immigration and National Act of 1952, which in effect gives the Secretary of State broad discretion to designate a non-citizen, including a visa holder, as a potential threat to U.S. national security. Is there any legal bar for establishing who is a potential threat? Or can the Secretary of State say, I've read this op-ed and I think she may have been involved in protests, she's out?
Yeah, the legal bar is the First Amendment. It's the free speech clause of the First Amendment. Jim, you talked about a law, like a law that Congress passed. Any law that Congress passes is going to be subordinated to the Constitution. And there's a reason they put the free speech clause in the First Amendment. It's a basic fundamental right that underpins everything else that we got going on democracy-wise inside the United States. And so if we can have free speech, or we can let Marco Rubio decide who says what, but we can't have both.
You recently won a case before the Supreme Court, which essentially protected CAIR's lawsuit challenging the federal no-fly list, this on behalf of an American Muslim who was tortured and imprisoned at the command of U.S. officials. You said, quote, the FBI cannot place innocent Muslims on a no-fly list only to then block that unconstitutional list from scrutiny by removing those Muslims whenever they file a lawsuit. I just wonder, what are the parallels between those cases? And do you see an opportunity, you won that case, to win challenges to these students, their treatment and deportation?
Oh, yeah. I don't think that the Supreme Court is going to tolerate what the Trump administration is doing. This is free speech. This is American exceptionalism at its finest. No one does free speech better than the United States of America does free speech. And what the Trump administration is doing is an unprecedented deviation from several hundred years of free speech traditions. And so just like, the government, they took the case, that no-fly list case to the Supreme Court, and they thought the Supreme Court was going to reverse and tell them that they could do whatever they want with Muslims on secret FBI watch lists. That turned out not to be the case, and 9 Supreme Court justices out of 9 voted against it. And that's very similar, Jim, to a case that was just decided less than a year ago involving the NRA, defended by the ACLU, where New York State Commission was interfering with the NRA's ability to operate as an organization. And it was, again, 9-0 at the Supreme Court saying you can't do that. And yeah, go ahead.
The trouble is this administration has ignored the court. I mean, you have the case of the deportation flights where a judge blocked it, and they said, oh, the flights were out of U.S. airspace at that time. Not even clear if that's been established. The case of Ozturk here, there was a judge who blocked her being removed from the state of Massachusetts, but she was sent to Louisiana anyway. And again, the administration said, oh, well, happened before we got this order. Are you confident that this administration is going to obey and listen to even a Supreme Court decision?
Of course, there's not a lot of confidence in anything that regards what the Trump administration is going to do in the future. I don't even think that they know necessarily what they're going to do in the future. But here, it is something of a numbers game. If people of conscience keep on talking about Palestine, they keep on talking about the genocide in Gaza, then we're going to have a right of free speech. If they stop, then we're going to lose that right.
You're right. A lot of it is on us. Gadeir Abbas, thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.